How well do you get along with your family? Can you communicate easily with your younger siblings? Or does their behavior sometimes drive you up the wall? Can a close family member become the most hated person in your life just because they refuse to meet others' expectations and choose their own path? Could this ever be a reason for murder? Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we will discuss the case of Azumi Muto and her family. We'll explore how a lack of understanding and respect among close relatives can lead to tragedy. Japan is a country of traditional values where family interests often take precedence over personal ones. Not disappointing your parents, not bringing shame to the family, being a source of pride, and continuing the family business are expectations instilled in children from a very young age. Children are taught not to argue, to believe that parents know best, to be obedient, and most importantly, not to cause inconvenience. Statistics show that Japanese parents prefer their children to become mid-level employees, living quiet and unremarkable lives. In Japanese society, the family and collective interests hold significant importance. The concept of considering others' feelings and needs, along with duty and obligation, plays a crucial role in Japanese culture. Family ties and expectations often outweigh personal ambitions. In some families, especially traditional ones or those running family businesses, there is a real expectation that children will continue the family legacy. Japanese culture encourages obedience and respect for elders. Not inconveniencing others is an important social principle, but this isn't a universal norm for all Japanese. In Azumi Muto's family, she was the youngest of 3 children. Born on June 13, 1986, Azumi's parents, like her grandparents, were dentists. They owned a small private clinic in one of Tokyo's most prestigious areas, Shibuya, and expected their children to follow in their footsteps. At 20, Azumi Muto had big dreams and would tell her friends with a mischievous smile, "You'll see. I'll become a star." Azumi's older brother was already working as a dentist, having graduated with honors from a Japanese university in this field. Her parents were very proud of him and often held him up as an example to Azumi and their middle son, Yuki, who was just a year older than his sister. The Muto family was well off, not only because dentistry is a prestigious and well-paid profession, but also because they wisely invested in real estate, which they rented out. Technically, their children didn't have to work at all, but the family business had to live on, passing from one generation to the next. The Muto family was a dynasty of dentists, and this was a given. As children, neither Azumi nor her brothers were ever asked what they wanted to be when they grew up. Their parents had already decided for them, and the children had no choice. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. The eldest son had graduated and was already working, but the middle son, Yuki, was a disappointment. Unlike his rebellious sister, he desperately wanted to make his parents proud, like his older brother. However, his efforts never seemed to be enough. He wasn't good enough in school or sports. Yuki practiced kendo, a traditional Japanese sword-fighting sport, but didn't excel in it either. He graduated with mediocre grades and failed his university entrance exams multiple times. Although his parents didn't pressure or scold him outright, their expressions showed their disappointment. When Yuki failed the exams again, they sighed, shook their heads, and silently left him alone at the kitchen table. Later, Yuki would say that he would have preferred being yelled at or slapped, anything but that condemning silence and coldness. But his parents thought differently. They paid for his tutors and only asked, "Did you study today?" Such an atmosphere weighed heavily on Yuki, and he soon became withdrawn. He had never been very social, but after finishing high school, he stopped seeing his peers entirely, spending his time alone in his room watching anime and reading manga, turning into a true hikikomori, a recluse. Azumi, on the other hand, was entirely different. In her final years of high school, she developed an interest in acting and declared to her parents that she had everything it takes to become a famous actress and model. She told them that her brothers could continue the family business, but she would become what she wanted. Azumi was very smart, one of the top students in her class. She picked up information quickly and easily, achieving high grades. Besides show business, Azumi was also involved in programming and succeeded in both these vastly different fields. She regularly appeared in advertisements and even acted in a low-budget adaptation of the popular anime Cream Lemon, which had a 15+ rating due to topless scenes and similar content. Unsurprisingly, her parents were not pleased with this. They frequently argued about it, and during one of these conflicts, when Azumi was 18, she left home, slamming the door behind her. She told her parents that if they wouldn't support her and only judged her, she would manage on her own. Azumi did manage, but not for long. She was used to always having money, not worrying about paying for housing or having enough for food. The concerns of those who supported themselves were new to her. Her income was irregular and insufficient to maintain the lifestyle she was accustomed to, so she saw no better solution than to return home to her parents. To Azumi's surprise, her parents were happy to see her. In fact, they were very frightened by their daughter's rebellion, fearing they had lost her forever and regretting how much pressure they had put on her. They allowed her to continue her modeling career on the condition that Azumi refrains from shooting content not intended for children, and they permitted her to keep studying programming since she was genuinely interested in that field. Needless to say, this was a bitter pill for Yuki Muto, the middle son, to swallow. Unlike his sister, he always tried to please their parents, going above and beyond to impress them and not disappoint, never defying their will. And all in vain. They still expected only results from him. This made him hate his sister. Their animosity was mutual. Azumi once told one of her friends that she doesn't talk to Yuki because he is creepy, and she doesn't know what he's thinking when he stares at her, making her always feel uneasy. Another friend later recalled that Azumi had called Yuki a pervert, saying she didn't like the way he looked at her, and surely he had some bad thoughts in his head. Usually during the New Year holidays, the Muto family would visit the shrine together to pray for luck and prosperity in the coming year. They also visited relatives in other cities and called on their grandparents, who were always delighted to see their children and grandchildren. During the New Year holidays, the Muto family typically visited a shrine together to pray for luck and prosperity in the coming year. They also traveled to other cities to visit relatives, including their grandparents, who were always delighted to see their children and grandchildren. However, on December 30th, 2006, the Muto family traveled to Fukushima to see relatives, but not everyone went. Only the parents and the eldest son made the trip, while Azumi and Yuki stayed behind. Azumi refused to go because she disliked the boring family gatherings where she had to nod, smile, and be polite. Yuki couldn't go because he had extra classes to prepare for his exams. The day before they left, their mother, still trying to persuade Azumi to join them, got into an argument with her. Yuki was dragged into the conflict since he was also staying home. Azumi wanted to present a united front with her brother, but he sided with their mother, calling Azumi a fool and saying she was a disgrace to the family, which did nothing to ease the situation. After the parents and the eldest brother left, Azumi and Yuki were alone. Still angry from the previous day's argument, Azumi went to Yuki's room. What was meant to be a clarifying conversation quickly turned into another conflict. With their mother absent, Azumi didn't hold back, calling her brother stupid, a loser, and other harsh names. Her words ignited such fury in him that he snapped. He grabbed a wooden sword used for kendo practice and struck Azumi on the head several times. Azumi fought back with her fists, shouting that he was worthless, had no dreams of his own, and could only obey their parents, failing even at that because he couldn't study properly. She told him she wanted to kill her, just to make her stop. Yuki grabbed a scarf and began strangling Azumi with it. He remembered hearing on a TV show that it takes 180 seconds to ensure someone is dead by strangulation. As Azumi struggled and fought, Yuki tightened the scarf, silently counting to 180. Whether he lost count or did something wrong, Azumi was still alive when he let go, collapsing unconscious but still breathing. He then dragged her to the bathroom and drowned her in the tub. On January 3rd, the Muto family was ready to return home. The parents and the eldest brother, accompanied by the grandparents, had prepared gifts and treats for Azumi and Yuki, who had stayed behind in Tokyo. Azumi hadn't been in contact, but her mother assumed that her headstrong daughter was simply sulking. The brief separation had long since quelled the anger from their argument before the trip. She was eager to return home, hug Azumi, and make peace. When she spoke to Yuki on the phone before they set out on the return journey, he told them not to be alarmed by an unpleasant smell, explaining that a fish in his aquarium had died. He asked them not to enter his room, saying he would take care of everything himself when he got back from his classes. The smell was so strong that the family couldn't ignore it. Yuki's grandfather, Mamoru Muto, decided to help his grandson by disposing of the dead fish while Yuki was at his classes. However, upon entering Yuki's room, he was surprised to find the fish alive and well in its tank, despite the unbearable stench. Mamoru quickly pinpointed the source of the odor. It was coming from the closet. Opening the closet doors, Mamoru was hit by a wave of the foul smell and covered his nose and mouth with his hand. Inside the closet, he found black plastic garbage bags piled on top of each other, filled with something. He tore open one of the bags and was horrified to see bloody chunks of flesh spill out. The family immediately called the police. There, in the plastic bags, was the dismembered body of Azumi. The parents had no choice but to wait for their son's return along with the police. The boy came back from his classes. He came home as if nothing had happened. He didn't try to run away. He didn't lie. He confessed to everything right away. At the police station, Yuki Muto gave more details about what he did with the body of his younger sister. Yuki decided that the sister's body needed to be disposed of. So, using a knife and a saw, he dismembered its corpse, meticulously packing the severed parts into garbage bags. He also cut off the sister's breast and removed its genitals. Psychologists perceived a sexual undertone in this. However, Yuki claimed that he did this to make it more difficult for investigators to determine whether the body was male or female. The severed genitalia were never found. Yuki told detectives that he disposed of them by running them through a kitchen waste grinder and then flushing them down the drain. The press, however, speculated that the boy might have eaten his sister's genitalia, as when Yuki was arrested, he had Azumi's underwear, which he had taken from the corpse, in his pocket. The family categorically denied all accusations of incest. However, specialists could not definitively determine whether there had been any abuse due to the state of the sister, which Yuki had literally hacked to pieces. Therefore, the police had to accept the boy's version of events. He never admitted to having any attraction to the sister or doing anything inappropriate with it. The defense attorneys tried to convince the court that Yuki Muto was in an insane state when he killed the sister, arguing that he was under extreme stress, leading to altered consciousness, and that he could not be fully responsible for what happened. An independent psychiatric evaluation confirmed that Yuki's psychological state was unstable at the time of the crime. However, the prosecutor believed that the conflicts between Azumi and Yuki had been ongoing for several years and had only escalated over time. Additionally, Yuki Muto stated that he hated his sister because it constantly mocked him and disregarded their parents. Nevertheless, the father, speaking in court, said that the hostility between the younger children was not as severe as the prosecution described, and that if things had been as bad as they claimed, he and the mother would have surely noticed before it became irreversible. It is also noteworthy that the parents paid for the best lawyers for their son and, while testifying in court, spoke about how difficult their daughter's character was, how she constantly provoked Yuki and got on his nerves. He killed his sister, their daughter, yet the parents still supported him. The trial lasted a year, and in 2008, Yuki Muto was sentenced to 7 years in prison for the murder and dismemberment of his sister. This term was extended to 12 years. In 2021, Yuki Muto was released. The Japanese judicial system does not disclose information about his subsequent life and fate, although I suppose one thing is certain: He never became a dentist. What was the real motive for the murder, if Yuki's version is a lie? We may never know, but regardless, Azumi is gone, and no amount of remorse will bring her back. This is how the desire to please parents, envy, hatred, and jealousy towards a sister led to the destruction of 2 lives. Yuki not only killed a bright and intelligent young woman, but he also destroyed his own future. Honestly, I think 12 years is too short a sentence for such a crime. Of course, in a fit of rage, he might have killed the girl in a state of emotional disturbance. However, he dismembered and hid the body quite consciously, and that, I believe, is not a quick process. Yuki also cleaned up fairly thoroughly, as there were no traces of the crime left, except for the dismembered body in garbage bags. I think many parents greatly underestimate the level of stress their children experience when pressured to meet expectations. It might seem trivial, but psychological pressure is complex, and you never know how it will turn out. So, to all the kids taking exams right now, remember that you will succeed. If not now, then another time. Life is not a race, and failing an exam is not the end of the world. It's your life. You have every right to make your own mistakes, stumble, and not achieve your goals on the first try. That's completely normal. What do you think about this story? I would love to hear your opinion. Please write your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss it together.